All right, we're in.
Welcome into Gun Talk Hunt.
Gun Talk Hunt. Hey, today's Gun Talk Hunt is brought to you by Springfield Armory and by Timney Triggers, the world's finest triggers. Timney Triggers has been making affordable quality triggers in the U.S. since 1946. Want to be as accurate as possible with your hunting rifle? A Timney trigger feels the exact same and every time it's pulled.
That's important.
I think every time you pull that trigger, it should feel exactly the same. Crisp and clean. And with easy to install drop-in triggers, a Timney trigger will up your game in minutes. Even less than that, honestly. Find an American-made trigger for a variety of hunting rifles at timneytriggers.com. Gun Talk Hunt is also brought to you by ATN. Optics options from ATN include Smart HD, Ultra HD, Thermal, Night Vision, rifle scopes, binoculars, monoculars, rangefinders, and much, much more.
You can record your videos through the scope.
Yeah. Well, who wouldn't love to do that?
Because you're trying to explain what happened. This deer came in, but then there was this other deer chasing. And but then you have the whole video of the whole thing, and you can be hunting by yourself.
All by yourself.
I like that.
And you get to relive those moments every single day. But
even if you don't want to.
That is true. If you do miss, and I've had some of those because it happens. But right now, when you purchase ATN's Binox, Excite, Thor 4, or Thor LT, you get a free gift like thermal targets, an IR 850 Pro illuminator, a quick detach mount, or even an SD card so you can preserve those moments that we are talking about right now. But find yours today at atncorp.com.
Awesome. So today we've got a buddy of ours with us. Dan Zelenka's in the studio, and Dan is a shooter and hardcore hunter. Also the president of the Louisiana Shooting Association.
Correct.
So you go to the state capitol and battle for our gun rights in Louisiana.
Every year. Sometimes 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
Gun rights is hunting rights also.
That's a good point. Yes, absolutely. So we thought we'd just have Dan on. I know you're a big hunter as well as just a shooter. Tell people about your background. How did you get into it? Did you grow up in it?
It was really kind of funny. My dad didn't hunt, and he had shot competitively in college. And so he had taught us some gun safety and also had bought me a .22 when I was 10. Well, when I was 11, my grandpa bought a 300-acre farm in Mississippi.
Those poor squirrels.
Oh, buddy.
No kidding.
Squirrels, rabbits,
anything that moved.
You know, and so, I mean, I just fell in love with it. And I actually dragged my father hunting.
Okay.
As opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, it's usually the other way around.
And from that, I mean, I've hunted all over the world. You know, I've hunted Africa, I've hunted, you know, Mexico, I've hunted Canada several times.
Yeah.
So just got hooked.
That's very cool.
I don't know if hardcore begins to really describe the kind of hunter he is. I liken myself to be a hardcore hunter, but I think Dan probably has taken it a step further.
Well, I basically have one thing. If you see somebody, they post a picture on Facebook hunting and they put on face paint, they're getting pretty serious about this. Now you're getting pretty serious about it.
Well, the problem is that I couldn't shoot my bow with a mask. So there was nothing else to do.
And a lot of people don't know that until they go.
I have to feel the tip of my nose. And if you put a mask on, I couldn't feel the tip of my nose, and I also couldn't find my anchor point.
Yeah.
And without those two things, you can't hit anything.
And if, you know, folks are listening in, you know, when you talk about an anchor point, that's when you draw your bow back and you want to find your anchor point. You find it
same spot every time.
Same spot every time, and that's your anchor, and that's where you're set from.
Yeah.
But yeah, archery hunting, and you know, rifle hunting or, you know, firearms hunting. I mean, because you've taken deer with every method.
Everything except a crossbow, and I have one now.
Oh, but, is this year the year you're going to go after them with crossbow?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
You know how it is. It depends on the mood.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, you guys are archery and rifle hunters. I've shot bows, but I've never actually hunted with a bow. I mean, what do you think? What are the similarities and differences?
Woodsmanship always comes into play, whether you're doing both. Obviously, rifles, you get you get a little bit more distance. You can make a few more mistakes. I find with archery hunting, there's not a lot of mistakes to be made. I mean, I don't know what you find.
No, that's absolutely true. I mean, I can't tell you, I hate to tell you about some of the really big deer that I've had at really close range. I mean, something you could shoot blindfolded, literally.
Right.
And just getting the bow drawn and getting the shot set up in anything, you know, the bow limb squeaks.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
You're
Well,
done.
that's the
I
problem.
mean,
That's a good point.
anything.
You got to be so close on archery that, now the scent, the noise, anything that screws it up, and that deer goes, whoa, I'm out of here.
Well, you got to think that we're entering their home. That this would be like if someone came into one of our houses and moved, you know, a picture from this wall to that wall. I mean, if you would sit there and you'd go, hey, hold on a second. What that didn't used to be there. You know, what is that up in, you know, that tree?
Also, you know what noises your house makes. It's like if you ever move into a house and the first few nights you're like, man, all kinds of weird noises. But if you've lived in a house for years and all of a sudden you're laying there at night and you hear, you go, what was that? That's not right.
Yeah.
My house doesn't make that noise.
Yeah.
The other thing I find is that proximity increases excitement geometrically. The closer you are, and even if you have a gun, but the closer you are to game, the more exciting it is. And archery means that you have to be really close.
Yeah, and a lot of it doesn't matter if it's a doe or a buck. It doesn't matter if you're like if you make the conscious decision to say, okay, I'm gonna shoot that doe, you know, because I need meat for the freezer or whatever it is, and man, you everything's got to play out. You've got to find that anchor point. You've got to worry about the limbs in your way. You know, is her head turned? What's her body language right? Is she going to take another step? But it doesn't matter. My heart is pounding through my chest when I draw that bow back.
An old doe is harder to kill than a rutting buck.
That's right. 100%.
Oh,
100%.
And she is, I mean,
she's mean.
A running buck's got one thing on his mind.
True.
An old doe has like a sixth sense that is beyond belief.
You're right.
And drawing a bow on one is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
That is a good point because I've been in the stand many a times when I'm sitting there, and it happened to me last year. And I was hunting in Iowa, and there was this one old doe, and she didn't see me, but she knew something wasn't right. She just knew. And I don't know how she knew. Like there was no wind blowing towards her. There was nothing. But she knew something wasn't right, and she blew for an hour and a half solid.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Hour and a half solid. Nothing came into the field.
Really? Didn't like it.
Didn't like it. And it's, they have this sixth sense that it's like, you know, what the hell? Come on.
All right. So the other day, I know I've heard the story, but you were talking about your worst bow shot ever.
Oh.
And your best bow shot ever came on the same deer.
Came on the same deer.
You got to tell that story.
Well, so I get in the field, and I drive 3.5 hours in the middle of the afternoon just because I'm like, you know what? I bet it's going to be a great day. So I drive 3.5 hours to my hunting spot. I get in the tree. I probably got in the tree about noon, realistically. And in between noon and about 5 o'clock, I saw 20 different bucks, which it was Dan, you've been there.
You're just on.
It's that magical time when they're just cruising. They're just cruising through, looking for a hot doe, and I'm just only outfitted with archery equipment. And across the field, I see just, 150, a really big 8-point. And I'm like, there's no way. So I start rattling my antlers, and I've got deer all around me. I start rattling, I start hitting the grunt tube. And this deer would stop, but he was with does. He had 3 does with him, so the likelihood of me getting him away, not going to happen.
Yeah, he was happy.
He was fine. And I knew exactly where he was going to cross, and I had a stand set right there. And I'm beating myself up in the stand, and I'm kind of set back, and I just got done rattling, and straight downwind of me, at 20 yards, here comes a buck that I know really well because I had an encounter with him the year before, and he had half a broken off rack, but it was the exact same deer, just a lot bigger. He's probably mid 150s now, You know, I was glad that I let him walk all the year before. He sits there and he walks all the way around me and he's searching. He's doing the same thing. 20-yard shot. And I'm saying, oh, here it is. I've got it. His head's down. He had just walked behind a tree. I draw back. Everything's lining up. My heart's beating out of my chest, and I think my heart bumped my string. I loosed the arrow and shot him far back. And I saw exactly where that arrow went. I was
hit him or you totally missed?
Oh, I hit him.
Okay.
But it was a horrible shot.
Okay.
Like it was a layup shot. It was a shot that I practiced in my yard.
Sure.
50, 100 times. I mean, it was so easy. And he, you know, what a lot of bucks or deer that are shot far back, what they do is they'll kind of, like something bit them. It's almost like you or me hitting a gnat and kind of moving, or like a wasp or something. We move and we're kind of like, okay, what just happened? Well, he's assessing the situation, and I'm shaking like a leaf. I'm like way worse now. And it allowed me a little bit of time to calm down. And it all happened in about a span of, you know, like probably about a minute and a half from the first shot to the second shot. And now he's further in the woods. I have a hole about, I would say probably about 1.5 inch hole that I had to squeeze an arrow through at about 40 yards. Now he's at 40 yards, and I'm shooting through brush, and I know he's hit. And I don't, like, where he was hit upon further inspection, he would have lived.
Really?
Like he would.
It wasn't that good.
It was. It was a horrible shot. Awful shot.
And you wouldn't take a 40-yard shot through, you know, a 1.5 inch hole normally,
I would
he was
never
already
take
hit.
that. Never. I would have never taken that shot on that deer had I known, like, because the direction that he was facing, I wouldn't have got another shot.
Yeah.
And I slowed down. I breathed. I was actually like, okay, Colin, you got to make this shot. And I don't know how I center punched him, but I center
magic
punched
arrow
right through the lungs. It was perfect. He was down within 20 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, the beautiful thing about it is I didn't have to drive my truck very far either. Like he ran towards the truck. I was like, that's great.
Yeah.
But it like my whole emotional like being was involved in that. Like I went from a crushing defeat to like, how did I make that shot? And I replay it. I can still see 100%. And then you can probably remember almost every sight picture that you've ever taken. And it's just that's burned into my memory.
Mm-hmm. That is amazing if you think about that with hunting. There are certain moments on, especially big game, that you still remember.
Oh, yeah.
And it could be 15, 20 years later that you still remember shooting that deer or whatever that is.
Yeah. I remember.
Or not getting the shot
Or
off.
not.
Yeah.
Look, a few years back, I guess about 5 years ago, we called a big, beautiful bull elk up a mountain. We were in a nice clearing and all, and this was the first time I bow hunted for elk.
Oh, gosh.
And like a dummy, I'm standing behind a tree, not in front of the tree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I learned.
Yeah.
Okay. So this elk comes within 4 or 5 yards of me.
Oh, man.
Is
standing.
Is he screaming?
Oh, he actually, what happened when he came up the hill, I thought he was going to walk in front.
Mm-hmm.
And as he hit the crest, there was a trail. And I didn't notice it. The trail went right by where I was standing. So he hits the trail, comes rolling down the trail, and then stops. Okay, something feels wrong or whatever, but he stops literally on the other side of the tree.
Oh, my gosh.
His brow tines, the shadow from his brow tines is at my feet. That's how close he's standing to me. And I can't.
And this is a first time.
You can't do anything.
That's the first afternoon.
Oh,
you know,
gosh.
I mean, and my guide, who's a college kid, is probably about 50 yards off in a little brush pile.
He's probably shoot him.
He's sitting there watching. He doesn't blow a cow call, and even worse, he videotaped everything. He didn't bother to videotape it. And all he kept saying when it was over with was, "Oh, that was so cool. You were on one side of the tree and the elk was on the other side of the tree."
Oh, no.
You know, I mean, what do you do?
But you just remember those.
So what
moments.
ended up happening?
Well, and I knew it. I was right on the edge of the wind, and the wind just shifted enough that he smelled me. And I mean, I could have made a shot with a rifle really easily because I could have shoot a running elk at 6 yards.
Yeah,
Pretty sure about that. You know, with a bow, done.
No, you're
Yeah.
done. And
You know?
that's the heartbreaking, but
Oh, he was a monster. I mean, he was over 350 for sure.
Really?
No kidding.
He was
And
a
that's-
beautiful.
I guess the
beautiful
hope would have been
6.6.
if the guide had blown a call and gotten him to walk.
2 steps.
Just walk. Give me something.
now would you have drawn back, or would you just stick it in with your hands?
Poke him.
Yeah.
Just it's
well,
bayonet kind
the
of
real
situation.
issue was, would the arrow have left the rest?
Right.
Yeah, it's still on your bow.
I mean, dear God, it was so close.
Oh my
That
gosh.
and if he was, I'm guessing he was probably bugling.
He was down the hill.
And
He
then he
wasn't
was coming
when
up, he
came
got
up.
quiet.
He just was
Yeah,
just looking.
that's
But
That's neat.
it was.
To hear an
you
elk
talk about your
bugle,
heart want to jump out.
yeah. Oh, especially at that close. I mean, it's from me to you, and we're less than we're
That's
7 feet
crazy.
apart. I mean,
Yeah.
Except he weighs 600 pounds.
yeah.
Right.
That's
You can see the
amazing.
individual hairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
Wow.
probably smell his breath at that.
Yeah.
I mean, is at that point.
There was nothing to shoot at the angle I was at.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's heartbreaking, but cool in all the like same breath.
Yeah.
because
Cool if
that's-
he'd have gotten the video.
Yeah, that is true.
And he has video of me eating lunch. You know,
Not hitting the record button.
We've never not recorded things and doing video,
Ever.
right? Oh,
And thought,
gosh.
man, that was cool. That's going to be cool in the replay. And then it's not there.
It wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a few things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So what about shifting gears? What about modern guns for hunting? Well, specifically AR-15s, modern sporting rifles, because people want to debate about this. I think people are coming around to the idea of like, wait a minute, these could be used. I know you've used them.
it's literally the most versatile rifle out there on the market.
Yeah.
If you want to set it up to shoot squirrels, there's 22 uppers available. If you want to shoot coyotes, you have 223s.
Yeah.
Hunting deer, I have one specifically set up in a 6.8 SPC that, I mean, it's a 27 caliber bullet, 100 grain bullet going 2,820 feet per second.
Yeah.
And so that's, basically a 300-yard cartridge.
Yeah.
And I actually have two set up because I've got one.
Of course you do.
Of course I do. I've got one upper set up with a daylight scope, and I've got one set up for hogs with a night scope.
Night scope. Nice.
And the cool part about the AR-15, both are zeroed in, two push pins. You
Two
switch
push pins.
from day to night, and you're ready to
point.
go.
And I think that's something that not a lot of folks think about is the versatility. I don't think they think that, I just need another upper. Like, you can have one lower and have multiple setups. And I
And
think
it
that's
really
a smart
is
way
that
to do
easy.
it.
I mean,
Well,
two pins.
frankly, I've got one hunting lower, and I've got 4 uppers for it.
Okay. Yeah.
Because, and it's got the same trigger, and all 4 uppers are built right. They all shoot sub-minute. I mean, they shoot amazingly well.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
don't understand. ARs, if they're built right, can shoot with the best bolt actions. They shoot much better than bolt actions that I grew up with.
Right.
Back in the Woodstock,
Sure.
factory rifle days.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what you get is what you get. I mean,
Back in the day, they'd say this is a great gun. It'll shoot 2-3 inch groups.
yeah. That was
That
a
was
good
the
point.
standard back 40, 50 years ago or whatever.
I use basically the same barrels on my hunting ARs as I did on my competition ARs.
Yeah.
And on a regular basis, the competition ARs would shoot 10-shot groups at 100 yards under 0.6 of an inch.
I mean,
So
Yeah.
that's definitely minute of
Wow.
deer. I mean,
Yeah, no kidding. You think?
I mean, that's minute of eye.
That's a
On
minute
a
of
hog.
deer at 800
well,
yards.
the other part about them and the versatility, number one, they don't kick very much. You talked about youth guns.
Yeah.
You have adjustable stocks, so you can fit them to anyone,
That's true.
okay? And you don't have to buy 2 guns.
Right.
If I want to take my rifle out, I pull the stock out longer, or if it's really cold, I'll shorten it up a couple of inches
Yep.
because of my heavy clothes. And if I want to take my grandson out, I just shorten the rifle down.
Yep.
No problem.
If you want to swap an upper on it and make it a less recoil caliber,
Absolutely.
and of course, maybe a little bit easier as far as throwing a silencer on there. You know,
I might have a few of those laying around.
silencers for hunting.
Yes, absolutely.
I will tell you, I built a, well, I didn't build, I bought a CZ 455 22 rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a silencer on it for squirrel hunting.
Oh, cool.
And that is the most civilized method of hunting on the planet. It doesn't disturb anything, you know? I mean, it's actually quiet enough that you can hear the bullet hit.
Yeah.
What are you shooting through that?
RWS subsonic hollow points.
Okay.
It shoots really, really well.
Okay.
Even out to 100 yards. And they're pretty soft. They expand.
Yeah.
And they're quiet as can be. So I might have a few of them laying around.
I would say, I would hope so.
Yeah, that's fun.
In today's ammo shortage, 22, you can still find it. You really can.
There's an ammo shortage?
Just
That's what they say.
That's what they say. Well,
the
for
people
some
who didn't,
people.
the people who didn't buy enough ammo, there's an ammo shortage. Yeah.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
That's
Yeah.
it.
You know, that's because, I mean, we've been in the cheapest ammo era that I have ever seen.
Oh,
for the
last several years, it was
years.
just like easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's been plenty of it now. Ooh, it's
I
getting
watched people
scarce.
buying 9mm at the gun show last week for 70 and 80 cents a round for ball.
for ball.
Yeah.
That's 4 times as much.
Yeah, it's 14
Good night.
cent ammo that
Yeah.
they're paying
Yeah.
80 cents for.
Yeah.
Oh.
Jeez. But they're desperate.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you have none and you need
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
you know, I guess the question is it worth, you know, what they're asking for?
Right.
Yeah. Now, I know you do some reloading, right? What about
An excessive amount? Yeah.
what about what are the advantages of reloading when you think about hunting?
Most of my hunting guns have never seen a round of factory ammo,
Okay.
including my 6.8, you know, AR. All of the ammunition I shoot through that is hand loaded.
Why is that?
Because I can get the bullet I want,
Yeah.
the performance I want out of the gun without having to randomly see if, you know, XYZ manufacturer's ammunition works for me or
Right.
ABC's ammunition may work.
Yeah.
So I'm able to, with a hunting setup, I like to choose the projectile that I want, okay, and then try to work a load for that to use that projectile. Now, look, some guns, you know, there's a little voodoo in there because some guns just don't like certain projectiles, and the next one that came off that factory line may shoot that projectile,
right.
same projectile, into a one-hole group.
Yeah.
You know, it's a mystery.
Yeah. Sometimes you go, okay, I like this bullet, but the gun doesn't like the bullet.
And I have run across that. Not a heck of a lot of times.
Right.
You know, there are actually some kind of relatively standard loads out there that work in most guns. The one I use for a 270 Winchester seems to work in almost every 270 that I've ever put it in. You know, and I don't know if you want to.
Yeah.
Of 55 grains of IMR 4350 with a 130 grain projectile.
Yeah.
And I use a nozzle, either a
Right.
partition or
Accubon.
an Accubon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love them. I love those. I mean,
They work.
there are certain bullets, and there are actually lots of different types of good bullets out there. But man, the ones that have been around for a long time and they just work. I mean, the nozzler partitions and Accubons. If you want to go lead free, you know, there's some strong opinions about bullets. With like Barnes, obviously they've got the
there are a lot
triple
of strong
shock.
opinions, but the one thing that I do hear is it works as good as a partition. Because that, I mean, it's old school. They aren't the most accurate sometimes. I mean, I've gotten good lots of partitions that just shot, clover leaves. They're flat based, you know, so the long range crowd doesn't like them. They don't have the little plastic tips or any of that stuff.
Right.
However, on game under about 400 yards, every one of them that comes out looks exactly the same, and that's what you want. You want something that is dependable.
And
you don't want it to maybe blow up on the shoulder if you have to take a close shot, or go all the way through without expanding if the shot's too long, or something like that. Partition is soft up front and hard in the back, and it always goes through.
And some people will say, well, but it didn't retain all of its weight.
No,
it's not supposed to.
It retains 62% of its weight.
Right. I like what Thomas said. It's like, they go, but yeah, I don't really like those. I shot an elk with it, and when I recovered the bullet, it hadn't retained all its weight. So at what point in the elk's death did the bullet fail?
Yeah.
You have the elk.
That's so funny.
Yeah, people are funny that way, but it's fun to get into the geeky ballistic side of it, the geeky reloading side of it, which is another way, honestly.
That's a whole new ballgame.
It's another way to enjoy shooting and enjoy hunting, is there are lots of us who can't leave well enough alone, and we like to customize.
Yep.
There's that, and it gives you a reason to be at the range.
Yes.
That's true. You got to test them.
Working up loads.
Absolutely.
Yeah, working up loads. So, what's on the menu for you this year, hunting wise? What do you think you're going to do?
Well, I know I've got a couple of buddies that have invited me to go hunting, and my brother and I usually go on a pretty good deer hunt in northeastern Louisiana, and he has literally been blowing up my phone with pictures.
It's
in the last 2 days, I think I've gotten at least 20 of them, and they're in velvet, but these things are just studs.
And they're all in groups. They're all in bachelor groups this time of the year.
So that's a change in several, a couple decades. Is now you're looking at pictures of the deer you want to hunt.
Oh yeah.
Before hunting season.
You're naming them and everything. Well, I do not name my deer.
You don't name your deer?
I'll tell
That's the one I like. I don't care. He's old.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
The big 8-point or the big 10-point. Yeah.
I like the use of cameras. And one of the reasons, we used to hunt up in Kentucky on a piece of property that a friend of ours owned. And pictures have saved deer. Okay.
Yep.
I had a deer that walked out and 140-inch, maybe a little bigger, 8-point.
Yeah.
But he came out, he was close enough. I could have shot him with the bow.
Here it goes.
Okay. But I had seen him on a camera, and I had really taken a good look at this deer, and he was only a 3.5-year-old deer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You had a little more time looking at the pictures.
2 years, that sucker would be an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So those pictures saved that deer's life because we were working on shooting mature bucks. So we identified the ones we wanted to shoot, and we identified the ones we wanted to protect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the field, as it's walking by, you go, ooh, big deer.
Big deer.
Unless you look at a lot of deer, you're going, looking between a 3.5-year-old deer and a 5.5-year-old deer, you may not just automatically.
Well, this one was easy to identify because, he was a monster, typical 8-point.
That's a big
super symmetrical. Yeah. He really was a big deer.
Yeah.
And if you just looked at his horns, you'd have said, oh, he's mature.
Yeah.
But he was definitely a 3.5-year-old deer. There's no doubt about it.
We had the same thing happen. And I had the deer at 30 yards. I had the deer Petey. I named that deer because the reason I named him Petey was because he had a white ring of hair right around his eye, kind of like the Little Rascals. The dog Petey. He had the black ring around it. So I was like, that's Petey. And so I made the conscious decision, hey, let's not shoot him. 3.5-year-old deer, probably about 145-inch deer, beautiful deer. And sitting there, opening season, black powder. Oh, yeah, there he is. Truck drives by, deer runs off. Kaboom!
Really?
Neighbor shot him.
Oh, big deer.
Yep, big deer. He didn't and you've got to have people around you that kind of
they're on board with the.
But a lot of guys can't do that. A lot of
deer.
guys can't sit there and go, we're going to let them walk.
The one I was talking about, the 8-point. I know exactly how big he is because he jumped the fence in the The preacher,
Oh, there you
the
go.
local preacher
Well, you
was a
can't get
guest
mad at the
over there,
Hey,
and he never jumped back over the fence.
No, he's doing God's work. he's doing the Lord's work.
He nourished somebody's body. That's a fact.
and that's what's hard about seeing it too.
He was
is-
143 inches.
Oh.
And the problem was
Nice.
we were on about a square mile. We were about on
Yeah.
650 acres.
Yeah,
And it's really hard to keep a buck on a piece
Yeah.
of property that small.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
The place we hunt up in North Louisiana is like 11,000 acres.
Yeah.
Okay. And
it's a little bit easier.
And one side of it is a levee, and the other side is the Mississippi River.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a fairly compact piece of property,
Yeah,
and you can let the deer mature and
Yeah.
everything. It's actually a cool piece of property.
yeah.
It is
Neat.
the most northeast place in the state, because on that 11,000 acres there is Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi.
wow,
Oh, wow.
that's pretty neat.
Right on the corner.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and there are a lot of some interesting properties up there because you have all these little oxbows and
Yeah.
little I guess not landlocked, they're kind of waterlocked, kind of
Yeah.
little islands and
Well,
all this stuff.
The river, though, has been playing hell with it for
Yeah.
the last 3 seasons. The river's been really high.
Flooding,
Yeah.
yeah.
And actually, I've got a buddy of mine that's got several thousand acres across the river from Natchez, and they haven't even been able to hunt their property for 2 or 3 years.
really.
Wow.
And usually it's great property. I mean,
Yeah.
it's got
That's one of those.
great
if
deer
they
on it.
ask
It'll
you to
probably be
go,
really
you're like,
good
yes.
once they're actually able to hunt it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Letting a
And,
property sit is the best thing you can do for your deer herd.
Yeah.
Don't
Age.
hunt it.
Yeah.
Yep. Don't hunt it. Because and that's that's the thing about cameras that I don't like, is that you get addicted to those pictures. You you go in, you're like, oh, I got to see what's on there this week. Oh, did he show up this week? Oh, hey, what time are they showing up? And you get to checking them, and deer pattern you just as much as you pattern the
You're
deer.
going in there all the time.
Yeah, but if let's say you're walking along and you find a scrape that looks fairly fresh, it's a whole lot easier to put a camera up than it is to put a stand up and sit in that stand.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah.
because if the deer's coming by at night, you're
Yeah.
wasting your time
You're
in the
wasting.
stand,
Yeah, you're right.
and the camera will tell you that.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of value.
Oh yeah. No, I find a lot of value in them, but I just can't trust myself with them.
Yeah, it's a thing with you.
Yeah. Now here's the deal. Wireless cameras now.
Yeah,
Oh,
those
they-
are neat.
Remote.
They,
I mean,
they send the
your phone.
pictures
yeah,
to
they
you.
send the picture to you.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's really cool.
You've got it fixed.
Yeah, and you don't have to be able to have to go out to the land all the
No,
time either,
uh-uh.
which is super cool.
Yeah.
But then there's I can't go to the office today.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It does kind of slow down getting your work production done.
Yeah.
Boss, I feel
Sorry.
like I'm
Yeah.
coming down with something.
I've got the 3-day corona.
That's right. It's a new excuse for hunting season,
yeah.
everybody.
I've
Get
got
it
the
ready.
corona. Well, I guess you can't come in the office for 14 days. Really? I really want to come in.
How long is the season?
Yeah.
Oh,
14 days, huh? Yeah. Everybody's like, all the bosses
Wait a
now are
minute.
checking when
we
the
This
haven't-
might be
season
the
dates
best
are.
hunting season ever.
That's what I was saying. We haven't experienced that for hunting season.
Yeah, best hunting season ever. You're on Zoom in the
in the wild.
in the duck blind or in the stand.
I bet hot spots are going pretty good.
Ooh. You do the Zoom, but they do the Zoom background, and your background is just your house.
Yes.
So it's like you're at your house.
You take a picture of your house.
Yeah, put that on your Zoom background. So you're in the stand. You're like, hey, everybody, yeah, welcome in. Everything's good. And then you
Take a blanket out to the stand with you and go, and like a thermometer. And look,
Yeah.
with
You
coffee.
two have thought about this too much. Okay?
We're going down this road quick.
Yeah.
You're gonna mess it up because you're gonna have face paint on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I
That
forgot
day I
about
won't
that.
go into Facebook.
Dang it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Thanks for being on with us, man.
It's fun.
So hunting season is upon us. It's already
here.
starting to,
we're eyeing,
open up.
We're
in some
eyeing dove
places.
season in a little over a week.
Dove season
So-
down here is in a week.
Yeah.
We got teal season in a few weeks, and out
It's
west
here.
and up north, they're already starting to get after it.
Yeah, I'm already seeing pictures.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
I know social media drive you crazy.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on Gun Talk Hunt.